Hey guys, it is USS Wisconsin 94, and today I was going to be doing another tank talk. And, well, today's topic is going to be about Swedish tanks, basically. And, well, we all know that we all got the Czech line. We just got it just a couple patches ago, which is nice. The tiers 9 and 10 are completely overpowered. At least in terms of the inner clip reload of like 1.8 seconds or some stupid thing like that. But now we have another problem that I personally think, and that is the Swedish, well, basically the Swedish Heavies and Swedish TDs. The mediums, the more low and mid-tier tanks, I don't really have much of a problem with it. I think they're okay where they are. They're not that big of a deal. They're just there to be there. It's not that big of a problem and whatnot. But, truthfully, I'm not sure I personally want them to bring them in. The tier 4, 5, 6 mediums, they look okay. The TDs, I basically just think of them as Tech Tree E25s. At least for the... Well, make that for like tiers 8 and higher and whatnot. The tier 6, 7, they don't look that good, unfortunately. The tier 8, which is basically the huge, a lot of people on PC call it the AIDS, because it's basically a tier 8 E25, which I personally agree with, because it looks incredibly dumb. And, well, I just think these tanks are probably not a good idea to bring in the game unless they lower the camo, because unfortunately, console, as I'm sure a lot of people know, is that we have a lot more camo perks and skills than on PC. Unfortunately, a lot of tanks, a lot of TDs still have the pre-nerf camos, and I think the extra lower spotting or something like that. I don't remember exactly. And then we got the mediums, which the 4, 5, and 6. Those look okay. They're not that big of a deal. I really don't have a problem with them. And I got the Lago at tier 6. What, tier 6? Jesus, wow. Tier 4? Fucking hell. Got the Lago at tier 4. You got the... Let's see what else is there. Lago, tier 4. The SDRV M42. And then we got the Striv 71 at tier 6, which is... Nope, wrong. I apologize. That's actually a different one. It's actually the Striv 74, which is basically a slower Cromwell with better gun stats and an insane amount of 15 fucking degrees gun depression. Because why the fuck not? And it's just, I don't get it, but okay, whatever. Then we got the Leo at tier 7, which has either a choice of a DPM 75 or slap you in the face 100 millimeter. And then we got another one. And this is where we start with the tanks like the Emil 1. Which is, truthfully, I don't really agree with these tanks being in the game. At least in terms of their armor, that is. I think their turret armor, the Emil, looks like it won't be as big of a problem, especially versus things like a T-34, IS-3, and all those tanks that have fairly good pen when looking directly at it. But once it uses its gun depression, then you basically have no fucking chance whatsoever, unfortunately. But then we have another problem, which is the Emil 2, which is even more just stupidly, I don't know. I don't want the Swedish heavies to come in unless they were to change a couple things. And that would be, one is the armor change on the turret. That it doesn't make sense at all. And how that, I look at my T30 and armor inspector with APCR, and it still is at least 340 millimeters of pen needed in order to even have a chance. And it's like a 25% chance for the APCR on the T30 to get through. I really think they should lower that down to like maybe 300 millimeters or something like that, so people have a chance. And then we have even more insanity with the Tier 10, the Krogwagen. Or basically just call it the K-Wagon, because that's basically what it is. But it doesn't make sense. I don't understand as to why Wargaming brought these things in, because now we're getting into... Well, as the problem that we have now is our Tier 10 TDs, but now we're just getting into insane amount of armor, where if this thing has its full use of gun depression, you are not going to have a chance to pen this thing. And its upper plate on the hull is incredibly troll as well. It's 90 millimeters of armor, but at such a steep angle that you're probably never going to pen, which does not make sense. And like, yes, I know people want to say, oh, but the side armor is not that great, and it's got this, it's got that, but honestly, I personally think they should change this. Well, basically, I really don't think they should have it. What PC did is they nerfed the clip potential. They nerfed its reload, the aiming time, and all this other stuff. They basically nerfed the gun and the speed of it, but they didn't nerf the armor. That's something that I don't personally understand. I think that they should nerf the armor is what they should be doing instead of making the gun stats and speed worse, because all those Unicums and their fucking 50Bs got really super salty about this. I couldn't help but laugh, and how that they got so upset because their fucking 50B basically got beaten out by this thing, and they got really salty about it, and so they nerfed it. But it's still I still consider it as a monster the way it is right now, and because it's got 12 degrees of gun depression, 10 degrees of elevation, which is nothing. It's typical autoloader. Terrible elevation. Wow. Terrible gun depression. Terrible. God, fuck me today. Jesus. Great gun depression and terrible elevation. Okay then. Which is something that doesn't make sense to me. Is a lot of people keep saying that they want these tanks, and like, not really, no. I really don't. Unless you're going to nerf the armor and give it the gun stats from before, then I want to have much of a problem. Have like a 27-second reload with a tier 10 and give it the just as good speed and whatnot, because basically all the French owners basically said is, why the hell would I want to have an AMX 5100 or the 120 or the 50B when I can just use these instead? And honestly, I think that's probably a good and bad thing, because one, I personally think that the AMX 5100 is bullshit with 1800 clip potential, which makes no damn sense to me at all. And the AMX 120, I find that to be entertaining, is how that thing actually has a little bit of armor. And I don't mean pure armor and things like that. I'm talking about side armor and the fact that I can basically side scrape in these, which is entertaining as hell. Because I look at the armor right now, if it'll fucking load sometime today, and it says that the armor on the top of the hull is 80 millimeters and the bottom is 60 millimeters, which means you can side scrape all this thing. And people don't understand that. I find it funny is they want to say, oh, it's got terrible armor, it can't do anything. It's like you're joking, right? Do you realize just how incredibly troll this is? Especially with a player who knows how to play it, but also someone who understands how the armor works on the thing. Yes, it's got that giant side on the thing on the side that shows, and the turret is the size of a fucking Empire State Building. But it's still pretty troll. Well, the 50B doesn't have that armor. And then we go over to the Emil 2, which basically has no side armor. At least, and compared to some tanks, it still has 60 millimeters with chicken side scrape in them, which I don't really see the problem. I see the armor of these things to be a much bigger problem. People want to whine and complain about premium rounds and things like that, but honestly, you realize just how ironic when you want to have these heavily armored tanks, especially with the buff to the mouse. Let's look at what it got. Let's see. It got an armor buff. It got a gun stat buff. And it also basically got a huge buff. Probably one of the biggest buffs I've ever seen for a tier 10. 260 millimeters on the front of the turret. The whole, at least on the frontal whole armor for the hole and whatnot, that didn't get a buff for some. I personally think that's dumb. I think they should have buffed the upper plate to like 250 millimeters. So it basically has a lot more armor. And another thing I find funny is how people want to say that that itty bitty spot between the plate of the side armor and the frontal plate, they consider that a weakness. That's a weakness. That's what, like maybe a foot long, maybe like a foot in length, and maybe a couple feet tall or something like that. That's a weak spot, really? Nah. But if they were to change a couple of things, maybe the armor of these tanks, at least, well, yeah, basically just change the armor, then I wouldn't have as much of a problem with them. I know some people are going to disagree and say, oh, but I don't want my Swedish TDs, I want them Swedish Heavies. Well, think about it like this. The Udes and the STRV, all three of them, the tier 8, 9, and 10, they're basically E25s. You know, that little fucking cockroach that you can't ever spot unless you're basically fucking ramming it in its face kind of thing. Yeah, that thing. That's basically what these are. And the Krogvan and the Mios are basically just even better French autoloaders. Or French autoloaders with armor, which makes no sense. I can understand they can have a little bit of troll armor. That's okay, but it makes no sense. And truth be told, I'm very tempted to actually just free XP this line just because of these reasons like this, because it makes no damn sense. I don't know what all your plans are for this, but that's just something that I kind of that I can't help but laugh. Well, that's basically all I got for now. One, Swedish Heavies need an armor nerf. Swedish Heavies need an armor nerf. Give them back the old gun stats and the speed from before. The Swedish TDs, just, no, fuck them. No. The Heavies I'd be okay with if they were to lower the armor and give it the old gun stats and the engine power that it used to have, especially for the tier 10. And the Swedish TDs can go fuck themselves. That's basically how I see it. Other than that, I really don't think we should have them in the game unless they would have some changes. But that's just me. I don't know what. Nobody has the same opinion, exact same opinion as me. You might differ just a little bit, but other than that, that's basically what I think of the Swedish Heavies and TDs. Another thing is that the AMX 50B, people are whining and complaining about the aiming time of what, like 3 seconds? To that I say, cry me a river. Okay? Seriously. And I know people are going to say, oh, but you have the 57 Heavy, which is completely overpowered. And yes, it is overpowered. But both of them are overpowered for their own different ways. You got the T57, which is basically just a fucking autoloader with DPM, which is insane. And then you got the 50B, which is basically the mobility of a medium tank. With no armor. It was like, with at least no armor on the side and rear hull. The hole for the front is incredibly fucking troll and very fucking annoying, but other than that, if you're shooting the hole, the front of the hole of a 50B, you probably have auto aim on, or you've never seen the tank before, so you don't know where to shoot it. But, that's basically what I think about all this. They should probably do a couple changes. If they did those changes, I think they'd be a little more balanced than they are in PC. And as for that, should we blindly follow PC? No! No! Try and be a little different every once in a while. And I don't mean let's keep the fucking Waffle 100 kind of bullshit. Fuck that wargaming. Fuck you thinking. Anyway, that's basically all I got for now. So, this is USS Wisconsin 94, another episode of Tank Talk with me, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.